We're going to end our day covering how Trump's plan of how he was going to end American interventionism, as he spoke to on the campaign trail, is apparently by doing so much more of it than any recent president ever has, with him, of course, announcing plans, as I'm sure most of you have heard now, to ethnically cleanse Gaza, potentially with U.S. troops, because, you know, was also a big worry with Joe Biden and Kamala, I guess. We're going to look into the press conference in which he announced this in today.
Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza.
To follow up on what you were saying about the Gazans leaving Gaza, going to other countries, one, where exactly are you suggesting that they should go? And two, are you saying they should return after it's rebuilt? And if not, who do you envision living there?
I envision world people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I think the entire world, representatives from all over the world, will be there, and
I had to mix these two together just to fully encompass the Trump plan here, because I know MAGA, if you don't include every soundbite, they're going to pretend that he meant or said something that he didn't at all mean or say, but because they think it makes it better, it means that's what he meant. Because that's how MAGA operates. Facts don't really matter. What he wants to do is invade sovereign territory, which is an act of war, ethnically cleanse the population there. It's just a crime against humanity. Annex said land into U.S. control, an international crime, and then rebuild it and allow people from around the world to flood in and make bank off of it, because imperialism is great. Now, the warpath and destruction of Gaza that Netanyahu has been on largely this last election year makes even more sense with his unwillingness to sign a ceasefire deal, despite his own people suffering from it as well, until after Trump won, at least, that is, because they probably had a backroom deal. Like, you level Gaza so I can take control of it and rebuild it and make bank off of it. And you doing that will also undermine Biden getting reelected, who is or Kamala, which this is the only party that'll even potentially pull any reins on you from doing genocide, despite the fact they probably want to know. Let's be honest here. We're an honest channel. But I wonder how much of this truly rests on the shoulders of Trump that we just don't know about, that we'll never know about. But hey, my guys, I mean, at least this is totally America first, right? I mean, what's more American than a Republican president sacrificing our young troops in a pointless war in the Middle East? America, baby.
You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land.
This is also why Trump got rid of his respected generals from his first term, because, as I'm sure most MAGA doesn't know because they do zero research, especially that'll make their side look bad, Trump wanted to invade Venezuela in his first term. He hinted at military action on a few countries, like with Mexico because of the border stuff and a couple of different ones, only to be permanently shut down by these lifelong generals who knew what they were talking about, who don't want to sacrifice our American soldiers to put their boots on the ground for no reason. Now he's surrounded himself instead with con men, yes guys, who will just go along with whatever he says. So when he says, let's invade a country, they're like, hell yeah. Like, this time he can live up to the bloodlust that he wanted to in his first term, that he could only carry out through drones, but he did carry out through drones. Don't get me wrong, more in 4 years than Obama did in 8, and Obama did an insane amount of drone strikes. I mean, also look how unwillingly or how willingly he has mentioned sending U.S. troops into sovereign countries in just 15 days. It's been what now? 5 different countries or territories that he's mentioned. It's more than Joe Biden has done in 60 years of public service. But someone MAGA wanted us to believe is anti-war while Democrats are pro-war. Like, it's so believable, guys. They wonder why we don't take them serious too. Like, that's the best part. They wonder why they're like, you're so condescending and you talk to us like we're stupid. And it's like, yeah.
He sees a different future for that piece of land that has been the focus of so much terrorism, so many attacks against us, so many trials and so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history. And it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
If the guy who has slaughtered over 45,000 Palestinians, the majority being women, children, and the elderly, children alone totaling almost 20,000 of those deaths, destroyed almost 70% of Gaza, done billions of dollars in cultural damage alone, is by account of most genocide scholars and all human rights organizations committing genocide, has been accused of war crimes by the ICC against Palestinians, is the one agreeing with your position against the Palestinian population that he clearly wants to wipe off the face of the earth, that might be warning enough for you to realize you might be on the wrong side of history. Like, if I had a foreign policy position on like Jews and Hitler was like, that's a great idea, buddy, I would probably be hesitant to think it was right. You know, like, a few important things to note here. He doesn't consider Palestine a country, a territory, anything, as he doesn't consider the Palestinians a people, like a culture. That is why he uses verbiage here like pieces of land. That is very important. As if it's an empty field being bought, right, for a business transaction, not people's homes that he leveled that Trump is now replacing and forcing these people out of and telling them they can never return to. And he mentions terrorism being brought to the land. Sure, yes. I'm not one to deny the atrocities of Hamas and that has gone on in the region from Palestinians, from Arabs, just as like Israel's. But unlike him, I'm not one to downplay the atrocities that have been carried out by Israel in the region. And he's the one who has leveled the area. He's the one that has killed over 10,000 children. That sounds like clear-cut terrorism to me.